Welcome back to Brotherly Beliefs, Faith, Family, and Fun. I'm Malik.
And I'm Tristan. Join us for candid conversations about life tapestries. From the faith that binds us to the family that shapes us to the pure fun woven in every moment. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the heart of our stories and enjoy an incredible episode of Brotherly Beliefs. There we go.
Finally made it. All right.
Oh, that took 10 times. Just so you guys
literally.
know. All right. Conversations, yeah. Communication. Where does communication begin?
As in, like, just just like a standard conversation, or just
No,
like
communication.
like depth
You're
communication. Man, the tears are still there, bro. It was rough.
Oh.
So, like, communicating as far as like deeper things, like issues maybe having, or just like opening up.
That open communication.
Okay. So,
where do you think that begins, and where do you think that, like, I don't think it ever ends. I don't think the building communication and communicating more ever ends. I think that's something that you progressively work on.
No way. We'll just keep going. Okay.
So I don't think open communication is ever something you ever stop working on. I think it's progressively something you work on all the time. You work on it all the time, and I think it's something you should continue to do. Work on communicating more, because there's always more to communicate. But how do you get to that point where you do have open communication?
And it takes a lot of vulnerability. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I do know what you mean.
Yeah. It takes a lot of for me at least, it takes like seeing you open up a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So with Savannah and I, we hung out like all day, every day kind of thing. So we got to gradually see the other side of them that like normally other people wouldn't see, you know what I mean? So at that point, it's like, okay. But as far as opening up to like deep things, you know what I mean? It ties back to our last episode, trust. Also with being vulnerable with them and seeing them like be different around you and things like that, be themselves around you, and just like that added on with the trust built up from like what things like I know is safe if I tell you and stuff like that. That comes like along with open conversation.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think that when you start, there's stuff that you don't say and you keep to yourself in the beginning of a relationship, just because you don't know where this is going to go or what it's going to become. It's like the sock theory. You ever heard about the sock theory?
No.
Okay. So, right, when you have sex and you take and you take your socks off, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it comes with a vulnerability, right? Because first of all, if I take my socks off around you, there's already a level of vulnerability there, because I don't like people seeing my feet. But same thing, right? So as you progressively move forward throughout your relationship, you're working on that communication, and as you build trust, as you said, that communication kind of opens itself up, right? So once you have that level of communication opened, what do you do to, like, what are some good tips and like advice you would give to someone who's in a relationship and who's struggling with communication?
It really depends on like what kind of struggle it is. Like, is it a battle of like coming together and talking about like issues they're having, or is it a battle of like them like one opening up to the other? Like I feel like I'm barely like getting to know you, you know what I mean? Like tell me some things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that also comes with a level of trust, because like there might be past trauma and things like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're just gonna talk about just like the struggle of communication. I'll say it's about like issues in the relationship or something like that. Man, if one side is struggling, it also depends on like if it is a problem, like who's actually in the wrong, you know what I mean? So say the person that doesn't want to talk about it is the one that's in the wrong, like your feelings are hurt kind of thing. Man, you can really just tell them how you feel about it, and you can like try and describe it in a way that doesn't like come off as just like a blame game, you know what I mean? Just kind of be like, hey, when you did this, like it made me feel this way, and you might not have intended it to be like that. You know what I mean? Just kind of like your approach is everything too.
And I think a big part of it is because you said who's right and who's wrong, right? I don't think when you're communicating there should be a who's right and who's wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It should be, this is the problem. How do we solve it?
Right.
Because when you get into this battle of who's right and who's wrong, it's an endless battle.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Because so you can look. What's the saying?
I was more talking about like something as if like cheating or something. Like obviously the cheater is in the wrong. You know.
Okay.
What I mean? Okay. That's what I mean.
Yeah. But that's the truth, right? Is that when a lot of people like normal relationship problems, right? Like when relationships get boring, right? Because that is a normal part of a relationship. It gets boring because the truth is peace is boring.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a simple fact. But when you're going into that communication, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. This is where we're at. How do we get out of this? Right? So, it's a saying, I don't know exactly how it goes, but I'll wing it. This is what I'll say. It's like looking at a coin, right? If I hold up a penny, you see something different than I do, right? It's still a penny. You're looking at a different side of the penny. Still a penny, right? So a lot of people try to fight their points of views or their like, this is how it has to go, when it doesn't necessarily have to go that exact way, right? Compromise is important when you're communicating. Finding that middle ground that satisfies both of you, right? And so you can go into, we'll use sex as an example, right? Caitlin may not have as high of a sex drive as I do, but I have that level of fulfillment. That I have needs that need to be fulfilled, and what works for both of us, right? And so that in that conversation, you have to be able to be honest with your partner about how you feel. You have to be able to look at him and be like, hey, like, don't ever start. First of all, don't start a conversation off, can we talk, right?
Yeah.
That just starts it off on a bad foot. It already starts them off in a defensive and like panic.
Yeah,
right?
like nerves get like racked that way.
Hey, something's been bothering me. Can we talk about this, right? And sex-wise, right? I know this is a touchy subject sometimes, but can we talk about this? It's not necessarily anything that you're doing. It's just, this is where I could be more fulfilled, right? And so then attach those feelings to it. Have that vulnerability of, could we have sex more? When our lack of sex makes me feel disconnected from you. Makes me feel like we lack that intimacy. And so it's kind of...
And then there's different ways you could approach it too, like the way you said it, or you could be like, do you ever feel like our lack of sex like kind of disconnects us? Like kind of get their like opinion on it or perspective on it first, and then you could see how you guys differ. Like maybe they never even thought about that, you know what I mean?
Honestly. So
you spoke on like if a relationship gets boring, how would you like like spice it up? You know what I mean? How do you get it back to that fun and things like you said? Pieces.
Yeah,
boring.
I think you have to create fun, right? So I think it's important date nights, right? True date nights, right? Away from the kids, away from everyone else, where you get that quality time together, and
intimacy.
yes, that exactly that, right? And so it could be anything from, like, I can give you an example. Me and Caitlin went and watched Adam Sandler. We're in a room full of people, but we're there together, and we're laughing the entire time, talking back and forth about the jokes that he's making and all of this, right? You got to get out and do so. You got to do things that you've never done before. You got to go horseback riding. Do something like adventurous. Do something that gives you that thrill while maintaining that relationship.
Mm-hmm. And then I also feel like, because I thought of that too, even when I asked you that question, I was like, doing something that both sides has never done before, or just something that you don't get to do very often. Like, that things like that bring that thrill back in and things like that. And then you get to experience and have those conversations. And just like you forget about everything else that's going on, whatever problems is going on, whatever's going on in the world. Like you said, it was a crowd of people laughing at the Adam Sandler show, but it was more intimate with you guys because you guys went together and you guys got to talk about the jokes afterwards and things like that.
And I'll give the guy some game real quick, right?
Yeah.
Do things that have meaning, right? Because you said do things that you guys might not get to do anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, if your first date was going to the arcade, right? Mm-hmm. Go to the arcade. Mm-hmm. Do something that brings back, that keeps that memory alive. Mm-hmm. Like, these are all memories of, like, that have built and are the foundation of your relationship. So continue these things, right? Or not even necessarily something that both of you like, right? Caitlin likes painting. Painting's okay. Painting's relaxing. Mm-hmm. Do I like painting like all the time? No. Caitlin could probably do it all the time. But like when I was deployed, I sent her a painting, entire paint set, and I sent myself an entire paint set, right? And so we sat there and painted on FaceTime. Mm-hmm. Because the truth is you should be able to carry on that intimacy and that closeness miles and miles apart. Mm. So, if that is manageable miles and miles apart, what are you missing when you're right next to each other? Right? Are you putting down that phone at the end of the night to give each other that one-on-one time? Right? Kids are in bed. You guys have that chance to just sit there and talk about your guys' day, whatever it may be. Like, it's just important to maintain that intimacy and that bond, that friendship even. Mm.
Coming back on when you said about painting and things like that, like you think painting's all right, like you could go without painting, obviously. Yeah. And she, like you said, can paint all the time. It's just taking that into consideration, you know what I mean? And she will take that into consideration too, because she knows you don't like painting that much, or you don't really care to paint, but you did it for that reason. So he's like, oh, that's a sweet thing to do and things like that. Yeah. And then vice versa too. She could do the same thing for what you like more. And
Caitlin's not a gamer.
Right.
Caitlin will hop on COD with me.
Yeah. That's really cool, yeah.
We'll play zombies. Or we'll play against each other, like 1v1, and she gets smacked every time. She'll listen to this and she'll...
Wow.
No, she'll talk crap later.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have killed you. Not try hard mode, though. I wasn't locked in. Don't worry. No, but yeah, it's important because then you make your partner feel seen at the same time.
Yeah.
And so you have to find what works for you, because what works for us and what works for you guys aren't going to be the same things.
Right, yeah.
And that's the truth. And that goes from everything down to from communication to things we do to build intimacy. It's not going to be the same, right? Me and Caitlin will go get a hotel room and just have a staycation,
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Great. It's just that time away, that break from life and just have each other. To go back on like talking about each other today, right? I can ask this question and then I want to see your answer. What comes first? Your kids or your relationship?
Relationship. And that's how it is in the Bible as well.
Yep.
But even if we're not talking about the Bible, and some people won't understand this, so let me break it down for you. So the reason that the Bible stresses about taking care of your relationship first before your kids, and it's not necessarily a situation where one is like, say, the husband, or even either or is being abusive. Obviously, you're going to put your kids first in that situation. But if it's a situation where, like, there's, like, some arguments or something like that, or you feel like the household isn't really, like, dependable or just, like, a strong household, you know what I mean? The mother and father are the brickstone, like, other than God, of course, is, like, the brickstone of the house. So without them, like the three of them, the house like can go to shambles, you know what I mean? Yep. So you have to figure out, talk, communicate on whatever is going on in the house, so that way you guys can provide for the kids more and things like that. I guess with saying that like the relationship comes first, then the kid is stating that the it has to come first in order for the kids to come first. You know what I mean? It's in the purpose for the child. You know what I mean? So, like I said, if it's like an abusive relationship or just a not safe situation, then obviously, yeah, take the kid away from that and things like that. But
yeah,
things like that, yeah.
Here's a good way to explain it: a secure relationship builds a secure home.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Long story short.
Yes. So when I say my relationship comes before my kids, I don't mean that in the aspect as in I eat before them, anything like that, right? My kids will always eat before me, right? I will be sure that my kids are fed before I ever eat, right? That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is at one point my kids are going to leave, and then I'm going to be left with my relationship.
However you treated it.
My significant other, and it's going to be wherever I left it. Right? So if our kids move out and my relationship is in shambles, it's going to be in shambles.
And then you have to deal with that.
Yeah. And so or your other option is to maintain your relationship while you have kids. So that way when your kids move away, you're just there. You guys are just living like happily. And you guys already have this secure relationship. Because a lot of people, what happens is their kids move out. You see it all the time. People's kids move out and they end up getting divorced. Because whether it was they stayed for the kids, they were only doing it for the kids, whatever it may be, they didn't uphold that relationship physically, emotionally, spiritually, and they had irreparable, I think it's irreparable differences. And they get divorced. Like it's, and we got into this last time. I don't think there's anything that's unrepairable.
I think that's really important because even with communicating, like I think it just means that much more in that time. You know what I mean? Because it is true that a lot of like relationships get broken in the midst of like
raising kids.
Yes, raising
building
kids.
Your career.
Yeah. Because I think that's also something that should be discussed like beforehand, before having kids, before even getting into a deep relationship, because once those boundaries and like things that you guys talk about get set, then it should be a little bit smoother. Like right now, Savannah and I are like, when the kids get to an age to where we have to like get on to them or something like that, it only takes one person. One person can do it. We shouldn't gang up on them. And if there's something that one of us does that is in disagreement, let it slide. Take them to, don't like interfere. You know what I mean? Like don't
undermine.
Yeah. And like, cause then that's like the child's like, okay, I'm going to take like that parent's side. They're going to stick up for me. You know what I mean? When it should be a together thing. Like that should be whatever happened that one side didn't like, it should be spoken about in private. So that way they can like figure
whatever
that out
dad
together.
says goes, whatever mom says goes.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So mom said you can't have your tablet for a week. Can't have your tablet for a week.
Yeah. And then don't ask if the child shouldn't ask the other parent either, even like they were just told no. You know what I mean?
100%. And so this is all verbal communication, right? What do you think is the importance of nonverbal communication?
So nonverbal communication, when you say that, I think of body language.
Yep.
So whenever, say we talked about it in a podcast before, I'm not sure if it was the last one, but we talked about it. But whenever one side is upset, we'll just say that for reference, and you can tell they're like kind of like away, like standoffish and things like that. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, you can obviously tell when something's not right with someone, whether it be they're upset at you or upset about something. Like, you can tell when something's on someone's mind. So that just opens up a door right there. Like, hey, like, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, and I think you should work towards the point where you have less nonverbal communication,
right,
and more verbal communication, right?
Yeah.
So rather than me having to come to you and ask you about it, you should be able to come to me and tell me about it.
Right, exactly.
I shouldn't have to sit here and guess and play the and play the let me try to read your mind game. Oops, excuse me. Let me try to read your mind game. You should be able to just come to me and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. Is there anything we can do about this? And then we come together and try to fix that.
Right. Body language can read, like, it can show you so many things. Like I said, just being upset is one way. Like, when, like, someone won't even, like, look at you, or just, like, standoffish, like, kind of thing. Or if somebody's, like, upset or sad, they're kind of shy away. Like, kind of both, you know, in a way. But you could just tell, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's also important to read your partner's body language, right?
Right.
Because, like, say I had a really long day at work, right? One fight after another, one fight after another, one fight after another. I'm exhausted when I get home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just beat. Caitlin should be able to read that, like, he doesn't have much in his gas tank.
Right, exactly.
But you should also work to the point where you can say,
like, babe, I am tired. You know,
like, me and
Caitlin
have a thing, right?
Yeah.
I got 10%.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need from me within that 10%?
Right. Yeah.
That's all I got left.
Uh-huh.
I'm running on fumes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's normal as a human being to just be exhausted and just
burn out
and get burnt out. Like, and you have to be able to communicate that.
Right.
You have to be able to say, I just don't have it in me today.
Right.
I know you need this, and this done, but I can only get these 2 things done right now. That's all I have in me.
And that's okay. Like, both sides of the partner should be able to be like, okay, yeah, like, it's like, obviously it doesn't happen often. So whenever that time does happen, just try to be understanding. Like, you might be like, man, like, just say, for instance, me and Savannah switch off on days for bottles and things like that. Like, one day she might not be feeling it, and, like, she's just, like, exhausted from working or whatever the case may be. Just have that, like, empathy and be like, okay, yeah, I understand. Like, I'll go ahead and clean the bottles, and don't use it against them. You know what I mean?
No.
Because that's another
Yeah, that's
thing
important.
that could cause an issue too. Just do it for them. Don't even bring it up. You know what I mean? Just like do it because you love them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
and
give them a break.
And I think that ties into that, like what breaks down communication.
Right.
What starts closing that communication, where you feel like you can't talk about things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I come to you with my feelings and you bash me for how I feel, and you tell me I can't feel this way or I shouldn't feel this way, right? It's only going to make me want to not come to you with my feelings, because every time I come to you, there's just backlash every single time.
Exactly.
Rather than us sitting here having a conversation about how I feel and us talking about it and working through it, it's just your way or the highway, and it's not fair to either one of us.
Right.
Because together, collectively, we should be addressing this issue and coming up with a solution that works for both of us. So for you to
neglect your feelings.
neglect my feelings and tell me how it's going to be is wrong.
All right.
And that goes from
100%.
everything from your relationship to parenting to everything. When you are in a relationship, you make decisions together.
All right.
That's the truth.
100%.
Yeah. So, what do you think is? What is your biggest thing to make you want to close that communication?
That's the one thing right there that you just got done talking about is like backlash on when bringing up bringing up issues that you like that's bothering you or something like that. That's really big for me. If I come to you with an issue and you just backlash or invalidate my feelings or something like that, it's just gonna make me think about it every time, and then I'm gonna slowly start to push away. And I'm slowly going to shut down, you know what I mean? Because I can't talk to you about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel healthy to talk to you about it. And it's not healthy to keep it in me either.
Here's a good. It's not safe to.
Right, exactly.
Right? Because you don't have that security.
Right.
Right? Because I should be able to go to Caitlin and tell her anything. If I would never. Very few situations would I ever. But if I went out and freaking killed somebody right now, I should be able to come to Caitlin and be like, yo,
I did this.
This is what happened.
Yeah.
What do we do about this?
Right.
Obviously, we'd figure it out. But you should be able to come to your partner with anything. And know that your feelings and your actions are going to be heard and understood, and if they don't understand, they'll ask you the questions to understand. Right? Because that's so important in communication, is when you don't understand what your partner is telling you, have them say it 100 different ways if you need to. Because that way, you know 100% you understand them and they are heard.
Right, exactly.
And with that, you have to make sure that they feel heard. Right? It's easy to hear them and to listen and to see them, but you have to make them feel seen and feel heard and feel like you're listening to them. Because then what's the point in them telling you how they feel if they're walking away unfulfilled with why they came to you with their feelings in the first place? And that all ties back to open communication, right? Where you come to your partner and you're giving that information rather than being asked for it, right? Because when you're constantly being asked, it feels like a chore, like you have to be checked up on, and it's tiring to continuously fight and beg and plead for how you feel or what you think about things or any of the above, when in all reality, I just want to hear you. Right. I want to hear you. And I think that goes into love, right? And I think that, like, you ask me why I want to marry Caitlin, and I tell you because I want to serve her. I want to make sure she has the things she wants and she needs, and I want to make sure that she's going to be heard, because I know I will hear her.
And that's another thing, is checking in with your partner and just taking the initiative. Just be like, hey, like, is everything okay? Like,
Yeah.
even if they seem perfectly fine, you know what I mean? Body language is checking out, the verbal communication is checking out, and things like that. Just taking a second to be like, is there anything like that I can do better? You know
Yeah,
what
and
I
I
mean?
think that's the best time to do that is when everything seems great,
Right.
right? Just take a step back and say, how can I be better for you? Right? What can I do differently to better our relationship from your point of view?
Because that's how you maintain a good, healthy relationship.
Yeah, honestly, because you could be forgetting to take out the trash and it bothers her, but it's something so small that she doesn't say anything about it.
Until it bottles up and then explodes.
Yes,
one day.
and so you saying, what can I do better? And she's like, hey, could you take out the trash? Like, we kind of had this thing where I didn't have to take out the trash, and now I do. Can you start doing that again? Because that's important, right? If your partner has done something that you like, and they stop doing it, tell them, hey, I really liked it when you would rub my back or rub my feet. We'll say rub my feet when I got off work.
Because obviously the partner is noticing a change.
No.
So like what made this change? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that can make a person feel unsecure in a relationship, right? So secure relationship is, I know that, like, I feel safe and I feel like I can communicate and I feel like this person is not going to leave because of the things I do communicate to them. I can come to them with my feelings and they're not just going to bounce out with them. Like, they're not going to hear me and just bounce out, right? They're going to stay and work through these problems. So it can create that insecure feeling when things change. It can create that insecure feeling as if your foot's already out of the door.
Right. And that just all comes with like reassurance, getting that reassurance that, okay, things are still good. Things are still happy and like how it should be at home.
Things are just peaceful right now.
Right, yeah.
Like, and that's normal. Like, people who think because their relationship isn't chaotic and isn't always crazy that it's abnormal. Like, there's going to be moments where you guys don't get along and it feels like every day you guys are arguing about petty things that ultimately don't matter. Like, it's not worth the argument. But then there's going to be days and weeks and moments that you guys are best friends and you guys are inseparable and you want every moment with this person. But those bad days come. Like, it's for better or for worse at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so you have to accept me for who I am now, who I am tomorrow, who I am the next day. When I'm pissed off and I snap and I yell at you, you got to understand that I'm a human being and human beings get angry.
That's where that grace comes in.
Exactly.
But it makes it it makes it easier on them to have grace if you can own up to the conversation. Like I wouldn't, if I did snap on Savannah, and there's obviously, I'm human, there's times that I don't do this, but it would make Savannah feel more at ease or more able to give me grace if I come to the conclusion and realization that I just did that. So it's like, just own up to it, take the integrity and be like, hey babe, like I shouldn't have done that and I apologize for that. You didn't deserve that and that wasn't me, you know what I mean? So just like own up to what you've done, you know what I mean? And then that makes the situation that much better.
I'm definitely a walk away guy. Like, I'm definitely, when I hit my breaking point and I do snap, because I'm human and it happens, and I do snap, I'm the guy who walks away, right? Because now that I've snapped, I will not allow myself to take it any further than this, right? I've snapped, said what I had to say, and I'm leaving. Because obviously whatever we're doing right now is not working. Because for me to truly snap, it takes a lot to get me there. I'm very patient. Very, very patient. So when I finally snap and I hit that breaking point, I know that it's too much and it's time for me to walk away.
Mm-hmm. Exclude yourself from the problem, so that way you like get the isolation and you just feel like you don't. Because really, it just comes from you not wanting to make matters worse. Because you're angry, you're upset, you're feeling all these emotions and things like that. And I say this because I do the same thing. So you don't want to detriment your relationship or anything that's going on. You want to be able to come back and fix it. So you isolate yourself so that way you you're not in the right headspace and you're isolating yourself so that way no further issues are like to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm working on now is walking away sooner.
Right.
Right? So before I snap, I walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Before I hit that breaking point, realizing I'm almost there, not I'm here, I'm almost there. It's time for me to bounce out and just get that time to just self-reflect. That's really what it is
right.
I drive away. Then I get in my car and I drive away and I just self-reflect. Boy, what I said was wrong. What I did was wrong. Like, by the time I come home, like, man, I gotta fix this. Like, we gotta talk.
Right, and it's okay to have those like walk away points. You know what I mean? I don't understand the point in not letting somebody walk away for a second. Like even if it's for like an hour, you know what I mean? I wouldn't say walk away for days or a day. You know what I mean? But like an hour is a perfect window to reflect and think about what's going on in the situation and things like that, just to gather your thoughts and be like, okay, this happened and this is how I should reapproach it.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you walk away, you have to bring that conversation up when you get back.
Right, yeah.
You have to acknowledge that this is where this conversation was supposed to go and this is where it ended. This was not right of me. And this is how I was feeling. This is this. How did I make you feel? Right, because then you're also getting their point of view, which can help you grow as an individual, within your relationship and outside of it. Like, because the truth is you're going to have encounters with other people, and they can push your buttons just as well, not as quickly because they don't know those triggers that you have, those things to say that get under your skin or anything like that. It's just because your partner knows you better than anyone else.
Right.
They know what they can say to get a reaction out of you every time, right? Give you an example. I know if Kaylin's freaking out, and I learned this on accident. I know if Kaylin's freaking out, do not say crazy. Do not say you're acting crazy because it flips a switch and she blows up 10 times more. So now I have to be mindful of that. And
that's another thing that I was going to say too, is because when you do walk away and you calm down and things like that, your patience is like already thin because of how you felt when you left. So what do you do in situations where you leave and you come back and you're ready to talk about it in a civil manner, thing like that, but the person keeps badgering you, like just tries to get underneath your skin intentionally? Because if that happened to me, what was already a big flame when I left, just like that sparks and it's even bigger. Like it just makes it that much worse for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think that is but that's not an issue with you. You're not doing that, right? As long as you're not coming back and continuing to bash the person or continuing to speak recklessly or whatever it may be, you're sitting there trying to just talk and you're trying to communicate.
You did your part.
You did your part, right? You came back to that conversation. It's on them to have grace. It's on them to be able to, like, when that walk away is not only for you. They should be taking that time to self-reflect and to work out their emotions too. Because at the end of the day, when we come back together, we should be able to sit down and talk about this like adults. And because if you ever notice, people, when they have big emotions, act like children. Right? So we should be able to walk away, come back and sit down and have a conversation and, like adults, and communicate these things. And what's the problem and how do we fix it from here on out?
Keep it from happening.
Yeah. And what got me to this point?
what got you to this point? Okay. So that now I know what not to do and how to either approach the situation differently, how to speak differently in the situation. If this ever comes up again, I know what to do differently so we can have this conversation before we're sitting here acting like children. We can have this adult conversation to negate all the negative that whatever argument brought. And I think it all comes with a balance, right? Because your partner has to be willing to give as much as you're giving, right? So they're just saying take care of you for me, and I'll take care of me for you, right? So I have to be willing to change and become this person. I wouldn't say become this person. I have to shape myself into a way that is loving to you, right? Because the way I feel love, the way you feel love, the way anybody else feels love can all be differently, right? So I'm a person who quality, my love language is quality time, right? So I enjoy that one-on-one time, that time where at the end of the day we put our phones down and we sit here and we watch a movie or we watch a TV show and we just enjoy each other's company with no distractions. Because that's what I hold close to my heart, value-wise.
Yeah.
Do you know your love language?
I want to say mine is physical touch. And that, a lot of people could take that and run with it and just think immediately it's sexual and things like that. It's not. It's even just like hugs, you know what I mean?
100%.
I think when I really am, I wouldn't even say in a relationship, but just like I just enjoy somebody so much that physical touch is like a big thing for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed Savannah's presence so much, like obviously I still do, but when we first got to the point where I enjoyed her presence so much, I like being like over, like, you know what I mean? Just like put my arm around her, hold her hand, give her hugs, kisses, things like that. And I'm a big cuddler, of course, and just things like that. Like it's in quality time too, even just no matter what. Like I just like to just touch you, know what I'm saying?
I agree. I should be able to touch you without you thinking it's sexual, right? So,
and then vice versa. You should be able to touch somebody and not make it sexual too.
Yeah, 100%. And you should be able to have intimate touch without it being sexual.
Yeah.
Right? You should be able to, like, here's an example. I don't know about you. Do you like your hair being played with?
Yeah.
Form of intimate touch.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do I just sit here and play with your hair?
No.
Exactly. Like it's more like that's a intimate touch, right?
Yeah.
Caitlin likes her face being rubbed, right? So rub her face, like, it's just, I don't know, man. It's and these are things you communicate.
Difference.
Yeah, and these are things you communicate at the beginning of a relationship, so you know how to show that person you love.
Yeah.
Right? Love them.
Or what's the most efficient way to show them.
Yeah, and you have to understand that you show love in the same way you receive it.
Yeah.
Right? So, lucky for me and Caitlin, we're both of our
love languages is quality time.
Yes. Right? But if you have someone whose love language is gift giving and somebody else's whose physical touch, right? The person who likes giving gifts now has to understand that this person receives love by touching, by physical touch and intimacy. And the person who has that physical touch love language has to understand that this person shows love by gift giving. So when they're giving gifts, it's because it's, I saw this bag of Doritos at Quick Trip and I just thought of you, so here you go. You know what I mean? Like, and they receive love the same way. So you have to reciprocate. Oh, I know that when I go to Walmart, they're the only place that sells this kind of chocolate, and he really likes this kind of chocolate. Let me go ahead and grab that for them.
Right.
communication should constantly be evolving within a relationship. Your relationship should be evolving around communication, right? Because it's all tied. It's an infinite cycle, right? It's constantly going round and round. Because if you don't have communication, then you're gonna lack security. If you're lacking security, you're more likely to fall into temptation. Like it's all cause and effect.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different downfalls from what can happen from lack of communication.
Yeah, and that's the truth. And so then you feel detached and you feel alone, and then you don't understand why you feel alone because you're not like communicate, and you have to communicate with yourself too.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be able to look in yourself and say, okay, what is my this is how I'm feeling, but what's making me feel this way?
Right.
I don't feel this way just because like we're doing the same things we've always done. It's not because of anything that they changed. What am I missing?
Even going in with that, it's like when somebody doesn't like really know what's going on with them. They know something's not right. They don't feel like they're kind of unhappy. You know what I mean? Like that, have that like off feeling. You know what I mean? Because I do it sometimes, and there could be nothing wrong. You know what I mean? Just sometimes I just have my days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm not feeling it. So even with body language and things like that, you might not ask them what's going on at that time, but maybe you just decide to take them out on a date or something like that, just to get their mind off it, just see that smile again. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. Sometimes you just need to uplift their spirit,
Right.
and just touch their soul on a like emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, this has been an episode of
Brotherly Beliefs. Make sure to check out our Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TikTok, all the above, man.
Yeah, links in the description.
Yep, and make sure you guys comment on what you guys like to hear, what you guys liked most about this episode, or what you guys liked more about the last episodes. Just let us know what you guys like to hear and what you guys would like more of.
Yeah, give us some topic ideas, ask us questions, whether it's relationships, faith, or anything, any of the above, or anything not above. Like any topics are on the table with this.
Yep.
So, yeah. Until next time.
Yeah, we'll catch y'all later. Fun. I'm Malik.
And I'm Tristan. Join us for Can't
Just
run it back.
Okay, here we go. Fuck. All right. I'm just gonna do it. Welcome back to Brotherly Beliefs. Fuck, dude.
All right.
We might fucking skip the intro, dude.
All right. You got it right here.
Yeah, this one. All right.
Stop laughing.
Okay.
Every time I pull myself together, you laugh.
Yeah. Okay. Dude.